Hello YouTube, it's Dark bringing you a how-to video on how to install and configure Koolo. In case you aren't a self-starter and you don't want to do it yourself, you just need a little guidance. That's what this will be for. The links in the description will help you download the required files, of course, and we'll go over exactly what you need to do in order to install it. And I want to go over the GitHub. I also want to invite you to sign up for their Discord, and you can do that all by basically just coming to their GitHub here. Then you can click on the Discord link and you can sign up there. There's tons of help there. There's a FAQ there. There's a help section there. Literally everything you could basically need in order to get this to work. If you have any questions or anything, of course, I will do my best to answer the questions as well. I have configured and set one up that is working, so I can do my best to help you as well. But the primary source of information and help is going to be that Discord because they are the ones running this, not me. So let's talk about this. So um, you can and will get banned for using this. I have already seen people discussing it on their Discord about how they've been banned. And there are certain ways that you can get banned, which I will try to go over later, but this is always evolving with bots. This is always changing with bots. There's no real way to know for certain what's going to get you banned, but there are definitely some surefire ways. So before we go any further, make sure you understand that. Make sure that you could suffer consequences for using this bot. You know, you could lose every single one of your Diablo 2 resurrected characters if you use an account that you normally run on. What I would suggest you do is buy a new copy. It's on sale now. Another link in the description to go buy a copy. Support Blizzard and use that instead. In fact, for me, I'm using two VPNs or SOCKS 5 servers. I downloaded a new copy, installed it into a new spot, and I'm even thinking about when I go to use it on battle.net, I may even put it into a virtual machine. I haven't decided yet. So I've only personally run it on single player, but I have seen it working on online as well. So anyway, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about some of the features that this bot has. There are only certain builds that are going to work with this bot right now, as this is not a fully fledged out, polished bot. You also have to keep in mind that they're giving this away for free for right now. So that's another thing you need to consider because that may change in the future. And also, they're not making any direct money off of this. They probably are taking donations. I hope they are. I plan to donate to them if they are, and you should too if you're going to use this. So we have Blizzard Sorceress, Nova Sorceress, Fists of Heaven, Berserk Barbarian, Hork Travancore, which is a really good barbarian, and Mosaic are currently supported. Hammerden, Javazon, Wind Druid are works in progress. I have a report from a member of our Discord that the Hammerden works great. So take that as you will and understand that some of these things are working better than the others, and some of these things are more efficient than the others, as you could probably imagine. Supported runs. They actually have more than they have listed here, I do believe. They do have terror zones now, as well as the ones that they have listed in this particular spot here. So you do have that. Multi-window support, run multiple bots at the same time, of course. Bot integration for Discord and Telegram. It's pretty neat if that's something you're into. Companion mode, one leader bot will create games while the rest of the bots join the game. This is not actually working just yet. This is a feature that obviously a lot of people, including myself, would love to see. Pickit files are based on NIP files, and this is fascinating to me because we use it all in Cobot on this channel and Cobot Forever. So the same files that you're using for those would also work for Diablo 2 Resurrected, with the caveat being that in Diablo 2 Legacy, or LOD, we don't have things like, what are those charms called? Sunders. We don't have Sunders, and we don't have Mosaic. There are certain things, Flickering Flame, Cure, all of the newer rune words and stuff are not included in that Pickit file. So you're going to want to add those, or if somebody has one that they would like to share, again, put it in the comments section and I will upload it to my website and I will share it with the public. If that's something you want to do, that would be much appreciated. Auto potion for health and mana, I can confirm that's working. Chicken when low health, can confirm that's working. Inventory slot locking, can confirm that's working. The locking of the inventory is very important so that the bot doesn't toss out items that you want, just like Colbot, just like D2 et al. Revive Mercenary can confirm it's working. CTA buff and class buffs, again, can confirm it's working. So basically all of those things that are down below there, I'm not going to keep going through these, but they are working to some extent. I have not tried the auto leveling for the Sorceress and Paladin yet. I have heard and seen reports on Discord that it's a little bit buggy and it's definitely not perfect. Gambling and no, just gambling. Gambling was working good for me. Cubing and crafting, I have not tried yet. Terra Zones, I have not tried yet. And unfortunately, Classic is not supported, which is a really big bummer because Classic is really neat and really a massive pain to play without a bot. So hopefully they can get that worked out at some point. I know not too many people play Classic, especially on Diablo 2 Resurrected. I know that's a fairly small community, but it's still really neat. So what do we need? Well, we need two things. We need, obviously, Diablo 2 Resurrected. We need our resolution to be 720p, which is 1280 by 720. We need windowed mode. And we need to make sure that if we're using like large fonts in Windows, that we disable those. So what you can do is you can log into Diablo 2 Resurrected and change those settings from the game before you run the bot. That's what I would suggest you do. That's what I did, and that is what got it working for me. We also need a copy of Diablo 2 LOD 1.13c. You have to have this, as it says, it is not optional. It will not work if you don't do it. So you must do that. Another thing that actually caught me off guard, and it says it right here, and it's completely my fault, is the fact that we need to set our key bindings in order to use skills. Now, if you don't do this, don't worry. The program will actually tell you that you haven't done it. And it will say, there will be a little pop-up, white box that will pop up and say, hey, you didn't keybind this particular skill, and the bot is not going to work right now. So just keep that in mind and understand that that's how that works. You should also, for the Blizzard Sorceress and the Hammer Paladin, you should set Glacial Spike and Ice Blast for the left click, usually, and then Hammered in as well, so that you can use your you can use that, and then you can use your Untime skill on the other one. Or in the Hammered In's case, you can use the hammers, and then you can use your auras as well. And same thing with the Barbarian. You want to use Berserk on that left click skill, or whatever you have it set to. You know, you may have custom set it, but that's by default, that's what it is. Also, to use Find Item, you need higher gold find on secondary weapon slot. Alibaba plus anything will work. So basically, you just want to have those items on your Switch. This stuff is all like basically something you should probably already know if you've played the game a lot. So I realize that some of this may be like annoying to you guys, but I do like to go through and discuss everything they're talking about because I find it to be important, and this will help prevent a lot of issues and errors that people get, because people like to skip ahead and not read, and then you run into problems. So forgive me if this video is long, but I view it as necessary. If you want to skip ahead, go ahead. I'll try to put some timestamps or cut these into chapters so that we can go through and skip through if you don't want to be doing that. Buy TP and ID tomes and one stack of keys and keep them in your inventory. Additionally, set the TP tome to a key binding. This is required. So what they're talking about is you need to buy the books for Town Portal and Identify. And we also need to have a stack of keys. And then we also need to bind Town Portal to a key of your choice. It doesn't really matter which key, just a key will work. You probably would do this anyway if you were already playing the game. So just keep that in mind. That's something you would most likely do anyway. Haradra Cube can be stashed or kept in inventory, which is nice. It doesn't have to be in the stash. It can be in your inventory. And it will use the cube recipes if you have them enabled in the settings for your bot. And I'll show you guys that a little bit later. Keep the charms in inventory. Koolo can be configured to lock specific inventory slots. Very, very important. If we're using Torch, if we're using Annie, if we're using skill grand charms, if we're using seven MFSCs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what we're going to do is we're going to download Koolo. This is going to be the direct link to it. You can come down here and click on the zip. You can also install it from the store, or you can build it from the source by clicking here, and it will basically show you how to build it yourself so that it's fresh and it's not in a zip file, and you know that it's all original because you built it. You can do that, but just keep in mind that that's going to take a little bit more expertise than just clicking on a zip file and unzipping it. Your choice. However you'd like to do that, just follow the directions. I'm not going to go into that. I don't think most people are going to build it from the source. And those of you that are most likely going to be able to read the directions for that. And it's pretty simple. You just download a couple of files and then you build the file, or build the Koolo distribution. So again, we're going to download it. So come down here, download it, extract it, and then run koolo.exe, and then follow the setup wizard. I'm actually going to go more in depth than they are here and show you like how I did it and how I currently have it set up so that we have like a good idea of what it looks like to get it working. And we also have a brief discussion about Pickit rules. Pickit for this bot is going to work exactly the same as Colbot and Atoll. If you've ever watched those videos that I have, again, I'll try to link these in the description down below, but it's exactly the same. You're using NIP files, which means all you need to do is find the directory where they are for each character that you use, and then you're going to use the files that are contained in that directory. So it's not like Atoll and Colbot where it has just like a general directory. Each character in Koolo uses its own Pickit files and can be customized for each one. You can do this with Atoll and Colbot too. You just have to rename the files. With this, they, in my opinion, they use a little bit better method, which is that each character will use its own Pickit files in its own directory with its own name on it, so as not to be confused. So if you know how that works, basically the Pickit files are exact and they have to be done properly. There can be no errors, and they need to match exactly the item that you want to find. So if you want to find that Shaco that's 141 and not just any Shaco, you need to put in there that the defense needs to be 141. I've covered all of this before in one of the Pickit videos. So again, link in the description if you need to get a refresher on that. Developer environment. This is where they're talking about how you would build the latest release instead of downloading the .zip file. And that's how you would do that. Again, I don't think for most people this is something they would do, so I'm just going to skip it for now. If that's something you guys want to see, just let me know. I'll go ahead and do it for you. But I think the average user is probably just going to download the zip because it's easier. So anyway, that's going to be part one of how to download Koolo, the prerequisites that are required for Koolo, and just some tidbits on how to install it and how certain things work. I'll see you in the next part. Hello YouTube, this is Dark bringing you another Koolo video. This is a Diablo 2 resurrected bot working for both online and single player. I've already done a previous video to this on where to download or build Koolo, and now we're just going to go through the setup process in this second part of extracting it and basically going through all the settings. So once you have your zip file, you can extract it to wherever you like. I created a new folder. You don't have to. You can put it on your desktop wherever you feel like. Open up Koolo, and then we're going to run koolo.exe. Make sure that you run this as admin. And if you get a pop-up for your firewall, make sure that you allow it through the firewall if you want to use this on battle.net. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So keep that in mind. So the first settings that we need to set up are we need to tell Koolo where our Diablo 2 resurrected path is. We also need to tell it where our Diablo 2 LOD 1.13c path is. And yes, you absolutely need both, as it says. Otherwise, this bot will not work. So you do need the old Diablo and you do need the current Diablo 2 resurrected. So for me, this is where I installed Diablo 2 1.13c. So I'm going to fill that in. And then I have Diablo 2 resurrected right here. I have this on my SSD for a little bit faster start times. All we're going to do is we're going to click up here when we find the main folder. So not folders inside of the folders, the main folder for Diablo 2 Resurrected right here. And then we're going to paste that into our Diablo 2 Resurrected path. And then we also have an option for centralized pickets. Centralized pickets are going to be very similar, in fact, exactly similar to Cobot and Atal, where you just have a folder that has all the pickets in it. And then every character would use those pickets rather than having individual pickets for each character. With Koolo, you can tell it to use individual pickets rather than using these customized or centralized rather pickets. So whichever one of those you want to do, again, that's not something I'm really going to get into in this particular part. I may mention it in the latter parts of the videos. We'll see. But link in the description if you need to understand what pickets are and how they work. And basically, they're the exact same thing that Cobot and Atal do. All right, next we have use custom game settings, auto reposition game windows, and debug mode. These are all by default selected. I've had good luck with leaving these selected and it working just fine. So I would suggest that you do the same. I also would suggest that you click save screenshot on error. This will help you see the errors in case it closes or crashes or does anything where you can't actually tell what it is that's happening. This will help with that. And then we have a couple of final options, which is we can integrate this into Discord or Telegram. And what that would do is it would let you know on that channel that you're designating that the bot is creating new games, new runs, finishing runs, chicken and death. As you can see here, you can have all that selected. I'm not going to do that right this second, but if that's something you guys want to see, let me know. I'm basically just going to go over like a basic setup. Hopefully a cut, trimmed down version of how to get this running without going too in depth into the weeds, what I would consider the weeds of stuff like Discord integration, because it's not necessary to use this to get the bot working. Anyway, hopefully if you have that all right, when you click save, you won't get an error. If you do get an error, you need to recheck the paths for Diablo 2 Resurrected and for Diablo 2 1.13c and make sure those are correct. You also need to be absolutely certain that you are using the proper Diablo file. I know for me, I have like 16 installations of Diablo 2 on my computer. So that basically translates to you could get the wrong one. So just make sure you have the right one. It has to be Diablo 2 LOD version 1.13c. It cannot be any other version. It will not work. Okay, and then next we're going to set up the character for Koolo. Hello YouTube, this is Dark bringing you the third section of the Koolo bot for Diablo 2 Resurrected. This time we're going to be adding a character. I'm going to show you both single player and multiplayer or online, however you want to put it, and what you need to do to add those. Single player, I'm going to start with that because it's a little bit more tricky. By default, Koolo is going to say it doesn't have any characters that are found. That's because we haven't added one yet. It's also because Koolo does not store single player character files in the same location that Diablo 2 Resurrected does. So in order to do this, we need to create, they're calling it a supervisor name, but think of it like a profile name so that you understand which bot you're using. You can name it whatever you like. I usually name it the character name so that I don't forget. We need to pick the class of that character. And yes, one of these classes has to be picked or else it's not going to work. In my case, I'm using a Hydra Orb Sorceress and the character name is just Dark. We don't have any class-specific settings for this just yet. This may change in the future, but for now, we don't have those. Use teleport when available. Obviously, you can use these other options as well. Always stash to shared tab. So basically, instead of using your personal stash, you can use the shared tabs, which is a really nice feature. You can identify a cane instead of using your tome of identify. And then here's that centralized picket option that we would have had to set up in the previous step in order for that to work. So don't worry about that. You know, if you're looking for a picket list, I'll show you where to find it here in a little bit at the end of this probably so that you can edit it. And then client launch options and arguments. So there are numerous arguments that you can use for Diablo 2 Resurrected. I'm not going to go into this too much. I don't know why you would need to use this unless you have a specific use case. in which case you probably already know what to do. However, we do have some boxes we can check if you would like. The default options are kill D2 process on bot stop and hide portraits. I would suggest that. I think those are good options. You can also use classic mode for legacy graphics if that's something you're into. And then you can close the mini panel at game start. So basically like the legacy graphics, that's what you would do. So you have a couple of options here. You don't have to do these obviously, but they're available to you if you would like to. We're going to skip the battle.net settings for now, because like I said, I want to show you the rest of this. And also I want to show you how to get single player working, and then I'll back up and do this later. But this is really not that difficult. Username, password, realm, authentication, and then I'll talk about the token in a little bit. Scheduler, you can set it ranges from when the bot should start and stop automatically. You can set it for the same day if you want to have breaks, or basically like if you want to kill the game randomly throughout the day so that it's not just running 24/7, which I would highly recommend, by the way. It makes it look less like a bot if it's being stopped and then not used just like a human would do. You know, typically you're not going to be playing for like 72 hours straight on a game. It can happen. Some of us are that hardcore, but on average, that's not going to be the normal person. So if you want to do that, you just click enabled, and then you can pick your time ranges for each of the days, which is really, really cool. And then you would just hit add time range, and then there you can see that you can do multiple time ranges for each day, and then you can delete the ones that you don't want if you screw one up, or if you just want to change it. Next, we're going to go to health settings, health at percentage. What they're talking about here is using health and mana potions, as well as rejuvenation potions, and what percentage of health are you going to use that health potion? What percentage are you going to use the mana potion at? What percentage of life are you going to use that rejuve potion? And what percentage of mana are you going to use that rejuve potion, if at all? Most people generally don't use rejuve potions for mana. We pretty much just use it to recover life instantaneously so that we don't get obliterated by something really nasty. And then you also have chicken. Chickening means to leave the game so that you don't die. I'm assuming if you put this to 0, the bot will not chicken. I have yet to test this. I apologize. I meant to, but I kind of forgot about it. I will leave a comment or in the description whether or not that's true. I will test it myself and find out if it is capable of not chickening, and then if it's capable of picking up its body or not. We'll find out. Belt layout. This is exactly like Atoll. A lot of this is going to be like Atoll and Colbot. Belt layout, column 1, 2, and 0, 1, 2, and 3. So columns are vertical. Typically, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4 on your keyboard for your potions. So we have healing, mana, and rejuvenation. You can change these to whichever you would like, and the bot will pick up and place them or buy them in the case of healing and mana potions and place them into the correct belt slots. If you do not do this right, it will likely toss out the ones that you have. Mercenary settings or merc settings. You can use a healing potion on your mercenary, which is really nice, just like Colbot and Atoll. And we can choose which percentage to do that at. We can use rejuvenation potions also if we choose to do that. And then we also have merc chicken. I personally don't really care that much if my mercenary dies. So for me, I would probably change that, but feel free to do whatever you want there. This inventory is extremely important. So before you start the bot, log into your character, whether it be single player or multiplayer, and make sure you examine your inventory and figure out which slots that you want to keep. So in my case, I have 5 columns, and then I have 2 sunders that are located in these positions. So your inventory is 4 by 10. It is 40 slots. And all you got to do is open up your inventory and look at it, and you will see where you have your charms. And then you just replicate it in here as if you were, visually picturing it, or just keep your Diablo 2 Resurrected window open. That would work as well. Game settings only applies to online play. So if you want to use this online, I would highly suggest that you come in here and edit this section. If you want to create lobby games, what they're talking about is public games. So games where other people can join you. And if you want to do that, you can use whatever game name pattern you want. So like for me, for example, I can use my name with a dash, and then it will add numbers. We can add a password if we want to. If you leave it blank, it will be public. We have game difficulty, and we have max game length in seconds. So max game length in Diablo 2 Resurrected is not nearly as important as it is in Legacy Diablo 2 because we don't have to deal with realm downs. But either way, this is in seconds. So if we change this to 600, for example, that's 600 seconds. That would be 10 minutes. So change this to whatever you like. I would not suggest very super short games unless you are running single player. If you're running single player, this really doesn't matter much because number one, it's not going to use that stuff. And number two, you're offline. It doesn't make any difference, which, how long the games are, unless you're just trying to keep the times down to keep them as quickly as possible. Anyway, run settings. So on the left side are the runs that we are going to run, and on the right side are the runs we are not going to run. So in my case, I actually don't want Pit or Arachnid Lair. I do want Ancient Tunnels and Dariel. Cows. Duriel is fine. And we can do lower cross chests, which is really awesome. That's so helpful. Mausoleum, we can do Mephisto. Nilithak, Pindleskin, I'm going to skip those. Summoner, Tal Raja's Tomb. Just some options you have. I'm going to do Terror Zone too. And, okay, so once you have the ones you want to run, you can literally drag these to whichever place you would like them to be located. So you can either do randomized runs, which if you're online, highly recommend you do randomized runs. If you are not online and you're running single player, it's not going to matter. Do this however you want to do this. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever. So, but I'm just going to give you like an example of what I would do. Let's do this. And then, yeah. So I probably do something like this if I, was like online and I wanted to do it randomized or not, then you would do it that way. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Gambling does work, and you can enable it, and then it will gamble your gold, and you will try to find those GG rares. I believe this would be related to your Pickit files still. It doesn't say that here, but the only way that could work, as far as I'm concerned, is through your Pickit files. So again, something I will touch on briefly at the end of this video when I show you how to make sure that you get your single player files copied over. Cube recipes, enable the bot to automatically cube item recipes. You can do this. And what that does is you can select upgrades for runes. You can select caster amulets. We have caster rings. We can upgrade, like I said, our runes. We can get token of absolution, which is really cool. Lots of really neat options in here. So this is a particularly nice option here, especially if you're going to use caster amulet creation, and as well as perfect rubies for caster rings. So if you don't know, when you create caster amulets and rings, you need amethysts and P rubies for those. P amethysts and P rubies. And if you use those to re-roll your charms, your grand charms or your small charms, what that will do is it will end up using the stuff that you want. And you don't want to do that. So anyway. Leader mode is still in testing as far as I know. I have not tested this yet, but I'm going to try to do so very, very soon. Keep in mind that a lot of this stuff is kind of like, beta status or work in progress status. So results may vary. For now, I would suggest you just run a singular bot. It's also probably safer to run one bot rather than multiples. So keep that in mind as well. And then last but not least in this section, we have back to town settings. So no health potions, no mana potions, mercenary is dead, and equipment is broken are all options. I like to select all of them personally so that the bot doesn't get slowed down. I'm not exactly sure why this happens. It could be because I have the D2R.exe blocked from going to the internet right now. But either way, even if you get this, don't worry about it. It does seem to still work. So don't worry about that. And then let me briefly touch on where to put our single player files in order to use them inside of Koolo. So we need the map file, we need the key file, and the D2S file at least. You can copy the rest of this if you want to, and it will still work, into the mods folder. And then you'll see there's a newly created Koolo folder. And as you can see, I've already done this, but yours won't have that. So then you're just going to paste. In my case, I'm going to replace, and then we're good to go. So just keep this in mind and understand that that's how you would basically run the single player files into Koolo so that you can actually select and use them. If you don't do this, it's not going to find the character. It's going to have a blank screen when it tries to log in. So understand that that's how that works, and that is how that is going to need to be set up if you want to run single player only. Okay, so now I just want to touch briefly on the Pickit lists and where you can find them and where you can edit them, add your own, whatever the case may be. So inside of our Koolo folder, we have the config folder, and then we're going to pick our character. This would be basically like our profile name or our supervisor name. We're going to open that up. As you can see, this is where our Pickit settings are. So we have two options. We have Pickit for the leveling entry point or script. And we also have Pickit for just general use. And as you can see, we have a ton of options in here. I would highly recommend that you go through this and edit this. Like I said, I'm not going to get too in depth with this. I've already made videos on how to do this, link in the description below. But as a basic overview, let's take a look at uniques, and then I'll show you how to keep an item and how to not keep an item. So for example, if we want perfect frost burns on line 6 here, we have comments that are telling us that we will not keep it currently. To keep these, or to find them and then keep them rather, we need to delete the comments and have it as such. So anything that has no comments, which is the forward slashes, then it will keep. If it has the slashes, it will not keep those items. So when you go to run this program, you're going to want to come in here and look around and pick the different things that you want to find as opposed to what's left by default. Because not everybody's looking for the same thing, and people generally want to customize this to like their exact, parameters. Like for example, for me, if there's a Viper Magi that's perfect, I want that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those comments and go ahead and keep it. You're going to need to do this with either Notepad, Notepad++, Sublime Text, whatever text editor that you like. I wouldn't use the built-in Windows Notepad because it doesn't detect errors and problems like some of the other nicer programs do. So just keep that in mind. And you may want to download a text editor program. I'll put a couple in the description that I recommend as well, so that you can check those out. And then when you're all done, just make sure that you save, because if you do not save, it didn't happen. And it will not work, and you will have to go back in and you will have to do it again. All right, guys, so I just wanted to touch base with the Pickit real quick. Like I said, not going to go that in depth, just wanted to show you how it works just briefly. All right, so I just wanted to briefly touch on the battle.net settings. This gives people issues occasionally, so understand how this works. So if you're having issues logging into battle.net, there can be a couple of things you need to take into consideration. As far as I know, the authenticator, if you have one for Blizzard, it's not going to let you log in. For whatever reason, it doesn't work with Diablo 2 Resurrected and Koolo. At least that's what I'm reading in their help section. So if you have an authenticator, you're probably going to want to turn it off because of that. The other thing is that we have an authentication method that we need to pick if we're going to be online. And we have two ways of doing this. We have an authentication token or username and password. I personally would probably just use username and password and see if that would work at first. However, it is way more reliable to just use the authentication token. Just be really careful with this. Don't share it with anybody. Don't tell anybody, because if you do, they can log in without a username and password, just like you're going to do with your bot, which means basically they could probably potentially steal some of the stuff that you have or worse. Okay, so keep that in mind, understand what you're doing, and then we'll go from there. So here is their FAQ on the Discord, which you should be joining and you should be taking a look at because it is extremely helpful. And I'm going to explain directly from it because that's the easiest way to do it. So basically, token authentication is the same as launching the game through the Battle.net launcher. It uses an encrypted authentication token stored in your computer's registry. To set it up, you'll first need to obtain the authentication token. This can be done from the following URL. So you're going to click the URL. You're going to log in with your Battle.net account for the account you're going to use for botting. And then after that, it will redirect you to a browser URL, something like this. It's not going to be exactly that, obviously, because there's going to be information in here. And again, don't share that. Don't give it to anybody because, like I told you, they can log into your account without authenticating if they have that as well. Now you can extract the authentication token from the URL. The token is the US dash whatever the part is of the URL. So if the URL is localhost, yada, 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 you need to get the US dash, a lot of symbols, dash, blah, blah, blah part. So you need to get that specific part. I'm not going to show you that because obviously if I did, then you could use mine. Copy the token and paste it into your character settings and choose the auth token authentication method. So you're going to paste it in here. You do still need to obviously put your username and password and which server you're on, whether it's the Asian server, Korean server. They're calling it Korean, but I think it's just Asian, America, or a Europe server. So hope that helps. Again, if you're having issues or problems, they have a wonderful fact. They have a wonderful help section on their Discord, and that would be the best place to get help. It would also be the fastest place to get help. So again, link in the description, check that out. And that'll conclude this portion of explaining how to connect to Battle.net servers. And that will conclude the basic setup for how to use Koolo, how to configure it, add a character, and then hopefully get you started and up and running. All you need to do after you've done everything and everything is working the way it's supposed to is you're just going to click start and you're going to see it log in, or just, in this case, I'm running single player. So it's not going to log in. It's just going to run the single player setup. But and I'd also like to mention that this part is where if there's any errors, they will pop up in a little white box here. And if they do, you need to correct those errors and then you will be able to rock and roll. So keep that in mind and understand that if any errors occur, the bot will most likely just stop right then and there. You need to correct those errors. And then afterwards, it should run just fine. That's been my experience. Generally, the errors that I've seen are going to be skills that are not keybinded. It requires certain skills to be keybinded. For example, the Frozen Orb Hydra Sorceress here requires Teleport, Hydra, Frozen Orb, and I believe Shiver Armor as well to be set to keybinds. And if they are not set to keybinds, they will not work. So keep that in mind, and it should start running, and you should be good to go. As you can see, it's gambling here. I'm going to let this run a little bit so that we can see the run after it's done gambling, and hopefully everything is going according to plan. I think it probably is, and we'll get a good representation of what it looks like to actually just run the bot. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good one. If you haven't liked and subscribed already, I'd really appreciate it. This is not my work. This is the man who created Koolo, and of course the community's work. So if you like this work, please consider donating if they have that ability. If they don't, I'll post it in the link below, or in the description below, excuse me. If they do, if they don't, at least head on over to the Discord and thank them for this lovely bot that costs us no money as of the making of this video. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here and we'll let the rest of the video demonstrate how the bot works. See you next time.